So we're going to start with Sif Beis, which is Niddah. Sif Beis, which is Niddah, which is the Rosh, Tanat Velio, Naga Beich Be'etzba Kitana. Naga Beich Be'etzba Kitana, it is Aser. So there's an Isser Niddah, as we all know. And how far does Isser Niddah go? The Isser Niddah extends even touching with something else, as all the Paiskim speak out. You're not allowed to take something and tapper with it. We spoke about the snoring last week, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that she's snoring, and maybe that would be a case. Be makamat seirech, ulai there'd be makom to mekel to tapper with something else, as Niddah al yidei davar acher, in as much as it's not explicit. The explicitness is Niddah mamish. By the davar acher, it would seem like perhaps there is makom to mekel, and we spoke out already all the other things that the place you talk about. Just use your brain and under one umbrella, reading one book, etc., etc. The swimming pool. Okay, let's move on. Now, what about clothing touching? This is where things get very interesting. Can your clothing, or can you touch her clothing? Can she touch your clothing? Can your clothing touch each other? So Harchakos says, "Chen liga bibigadeha kashihi levusha bahem aser." To touch her clothing while she's wearing it is forbidden. And that's a conclusive point. To touch her clothing while she's wearing it is aser. Now, what about your clothing touching her clothing? Your clothing touching her clothing. So on that, the next shlav says Harchakos again says Yesh li Zahir. The Shevet Levi says the same. Yesh li Zahir. But now, what's interesting is what about you're sitting down in the bus? All the places are all riding buses, and you're sitting next to your wife, and you're touching her skirt, but it's you're not really touching her. You're just touching the clothing. Meaning, normally, okay, let's not get stuck in the nitty gritty. Just Rabbi Eider points out already. What's that
on you? On her, her skirt is not a. Got with the man, it doesn't apply.
My jacket.
Oh.
I don't know. Whatever it is. I don't know.
It's different, meaning your knee can't be touching her skirt that's just sitting on the bus. According to this.
If you're wearing shorts.
No.
What are you talking about?
The look of your clothing here that's not on you.
Correct. Good. That's exactly what we're about to point out. Very good. Is that the nekuda that he's saying is that things are touching that you have no feeling for. You have no feeling for. Good. But if my arm is touching her, whatever, that I'm feeling her clothing, that's the same thing, Bashtas, as touching her clothing. Touching her clothing is not touching her guf, and it's ulcer. So what's the difference of touching that?
Both things are off the guf.
Correct. But Lamaisa, this isn't an explicit isser, and this is where the place can come along, and they say, for example, you're on an airplane, so you're sitting in economy, so you don't have that big of a seat, and you're sitting next to your wife who's a Niddah, and inevitably you're going to come to touch her. So to touch her arm, that's for sure a problem. Touch her, even though you both have clothing on, still a problem. So many places give an eitzah to put a pillow between the two seats. And now, even if you're touching, it's all via another layer. And that would be the eitzah. Okay, let's go to Haishata.
So what do we say regarding you touching her clothing? It's on her, but like her skirt on a bus.
Again, if it's touching your body and you're feeling it, it's aser. I should say it's aser. Yishli zahir is the lashon. If it's clothing touching clothing, that is mutter. But the eitzah always is what's something in between. Again, the shaila is what happens. You're taking a picture, and in order for the sake of the picture, they want you to stand close. So you're not touching her, but maybe you're touching her clothing and you're feeling it. you're feeling it. So l'chayra from the lashon of the paiskim of yesh li zoher, we do see that there is some room to wiggle over here. Let's continue. Hayshata, passing something we know is aser. That is the Rashba. Why he's passing aser? Very important. Did anyone have the Harchakos? I had it the other day. Where is it? Someone put it away? Yeah? Okay, Shkaya, thank you. Thank you very much. So, why he's passing aser? So there's two reasons. What are the two reasons? Thank you very much. What are the two reasons that passing is aser? Good. Either Shema Nat Yagaba, which is the rush, or who says Chiba? You're right. Who says Chiba?
That's placing food in front of her. That's
You have no right to say it.
I'm not about food. I'm talking about Aishata.
That is a shata.
I'm talking about regular
They say
Aishata.
Caleb say that's a shata.
So it's a Rashba. Chaver, the Beis Yosef quoted Rashba. Beis Yosef quoted Rashba. Haishatas Kli. Is that the Beis Yosef I asked? Haishatas Kli miad ishtoi Niddah liyadai aser lefisha libay gasba ubekrivois ma'at ika lemichash lehergalavir. This is the Rashba that we quoted all the way back in the beginning. That the Rashba holds everything is a potential to come to chiba. So let's read an Harchakos, because this is where we start asking. When it comes to Ishata, then we're going to get to Yisrika, and this is where, everything starts unraveling. That, it's getting a little bit wild, the level of geziras. Davar Aruch, Rabbi Yerucham was machmer to pass the Davar Aruch, but how Aruch? And to throw something, fine, but what about very far? So the Harchakos, Kuf Sadihei, Sivhei, says the following. Lo yigaba afilu b'atzvei l'chen asolita na davar miyadei liyada afilu davar aruch memnech shash negia davar aruch shash negia v'loi plug rabbanan koltov l'chen leikal miyada shem davar mitamzeh v'afilu lizrok davar miyadei liyada oy miyada liyadai asa b'chol einin bein shazrikahu b'meshach shaveh bein shazrika lamayla oy lemata aser Harchakos avud rabbanan the Chazal mir Harchakos minei shu'ima b'tediros. That's that lashon of the Rashba. That because you live together, we're making very far-reaching Harchakos. The chezach lizah zihiros yisera kidei shelo yikashlu. So Harchakos over here is pulls out the light plug, and once you have a light plug, sort of the sugya ends. At that point, now we're going to start trying to figure out all these different things. It's over. It's over because our Harchakos learned it's all one big light. It's all one big light plug. And l'chayra, that is the halacha. L'chayra. But now the question is, there does come a point that it's not called a shata b'chlal. What does the word a shata mean? You're passing something to her. So this is me and this is her. That is a shata. That is a shata. But now, if this is her, even her hand, and I go like this. Was that called a shata? Yeah? Okay. Now let's say this is her arm. Let's say go like this. Is that called a shata?
Yes. Maybe not.
Let's say this is her leg. Is this called a shata? She's wearing one. This is called a shata. So comes along the paiskim over here. And the one step before we even get to there. What if something she's holding? She's holding a bag, she's pushing a stroller. If I put it into her bag, I put it into the shoulder she's pushing, is that called a shata? I gave it to her. So over here comes along many paiskim, and they say once it's not her, they're much more mekel. If the stroller she's pushing, even Rav Elyashiv gives in that it's going to be mutter. To put it into her bag, some paiskim are a little bit more machmir to actually put it into her bag, but let's go slowly. Let's go slowly over here. Now, this is really where the child situation comes. But where's the tashbitz? Let's hold this for a moment. Let's hold this thought for a minute. We're going to come back to this because the tashbitz didn't appear yet. So I want to get to the. Let's skip to the tashbitz. Yeah. What's lashon of Pischei Tshuva? Someone please read me the tashbitz. Thank you. We're all waiting.
Oh, no, should stop.
No pressure.
He says very nicely. But I need tashbeit.
Sifkatan?
Chili Gimel, Sif Nun Chas.
Sifkatan the Pislei Tshuva?
Sif Nun Gimel.
Thank you. Continue.
Was man Harchakos of the Mutter Biko Niddah has not Dachi Noisy Satsma.
Please read that again.
Or not.
Thank you for helping him.
That's how you want to read it. I read Dachi. Pushes himself.
Says the Haley Getashmates, Elito miyada hatinoik nira shem mutter. Why is it mutter? Dechai noise as atzmai. Because a child because a living being carries himself. Ulahashach miyadai liyada mutter shlei asur ela yedei chibar behoishata. So we have a tashbeit that says you're allowed to pass a child, and the question is, what in the world does the tashbeit mean? What does he mean? What does he mean? The words, let's understand his words. The words of the tashbeit are, a living being carries himself. When does a living being carry himself? When he's at the age that he's able to move on his own. Able to move on his own. If he cannot move on his own, then you don't have the din of chenes izatzmai. Similarly, if someone is confined to a wheelchair, you don't have the din of chenes izatzmai because they can't carry themselves. Very negain al chashavas. Once you have the din of chenes izatzmai, the lacha is it's no longer going to be an isser daraisa to carry or push that entity because the entity is carrying itself. So to take a child and put it in the stroller and push that child, it is an isser derabanan. Even if you know around daraisa, to push a child that's at an age that can move itself is an isser derabanan. No. So why is the stroller not deraisa? We have to discuss that because the stroller is butted to the child, and it's a sigin al Shabbos one day in Mir Hashem. The massive nafkamina is going to be: are you going to be able to get a guy to push a child in a stroller, to push a elderly person in a wheelchair in the area of Rosh Hashanah to go to shul, to go to simcha, etc., etc. Shlom Zalman actually is very interesting. Stam and Al Shabbos says even though be'etzem and kloli Al Shabbos there should be makom to be mekel because it's a durabanan on a durabanan shvos tishvos or a mekel tzarech gadol. He says different places have different kabbalos. That's what Shlom Zalman says, and that's the emes. For in Flap Shlom Mashal for the last 50 years, the kabbalah was no one in the world ever had a guy pushing their child to go to simcha. I'm talking about a child again, not at birth, a child that can move on its own. I don't know, an 8-month-old, a 10-month-old, whatever. No one in the world ever had a guy pushing their child to a simcha. Everyone here could ask their parents. It never existed. Nowadays, it seems there are some that are being a little bit more liberal. But Lamaisa, that was always the Kabbalah. So the words of the Tashbeit are, since the kid carries himself, I'm allowed to pass the kid. What in the world does that mean? So, what does it mean? Anyone have any clue what that means?
It's not you passing.
It's not you passing. It is.
It's it passing.
Lamaisa, even though Shabbos, it's still Drabanan carrying.
Floyd from one to
Yeah, so at some level, what the Tashbeit means. Correct. It's still a chashash, but what he means to say is that the Geder Derabanan was not created on a living entity. Why not? Because the Geder Derabanan was to pass A to B. If I'm not passing it, why am I not passing it? Because it's quote unquote going on its own, then there is more makom. That is what the Tashbeit says. L'maisa, many paiskim, the Harchakos Bereisham asks the question that everyone is saying, says the Harchakos, quotes the Pislei Tshuva, to me, Hani, Eize Enyinu L'chaim Noise Zatzmai, says the Harchakos, what shaykhis? Umashakasav Sivka the Beishiv Na Yehuda. Okay, leave that. But he says, what shaykhis? Chaim Noise Zatzmai. And many paiskim based on that are machmir. Some go similar to the Chachani, and this is the way that many chasanim are taught, that if the child is jumping on its own, then you could be mekel. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because then you don't have the tam of Shema Yiga because the child is jumping. And v'ayid is chayim noisi, it's a mamish going on its own.
According to the Tashbeit, you can mamish.
We're about to get there. According to the Tashbeits, once the kid is at a level of chaynes izatzma, you have to be careful. At birth, there's no chaynes izatzma. If there was chaynes izatzma at birth, we'd solve all the issues of kvater, according to the Tashbeits. And no one in the world ever said that, because at birth the child does not move on its own. But once the child's at an age and it moves on its own, whatever the age is, on what age does kids start crawling? New chavra?
6 months.
How do we know? Oh, yeah.
How old?
4 or 5 months.
I'm not very good with this
I have no
thing.
idea.
It's like 5 months.
No?
It's too early, too late.
What's the difference? I don't know.
Okay, whatever that age is. I thought you guys knew, what should I tell you? At that age, that a child crawls on its own, then that will be the age of Chaynes Datzmai. Then the tashbitz is being makel, lemaisa, you could pass it straight. You could pass the kid straight at that age.
Even if the kid's not
Slow. Yes, let's be clear. The tashbitz is being makel. That if the kid could carry itself, you're allowed to pass the child. It's not called passing. Many paiskim take on Lamashal. We always say that Ayel Sarah is a very good dogma of the very classical halacha out in the Welt, and he writes Aser litol tinuk miyad ishtoi mita. It's Aser. Finish. He doesn't start making qualifications, and Lamaisa, that's the way it's taught, but it's important to know that Lamaisa, the Tashbetz is Mekel. One could certainly be Mekel like the Tashbetz. I actually saw fascinating over here. I don't know where he gets this from, but Ray Berkowitz quotes B'Shem or Shem Zalman. Maybe he asked him himself. He says, Yesh Lahakel. He says, the Minug. It's fascinating. I don't know where he writes this because it's not really true. He says the minhag is to be. I'm not arguing halach. I'm arguing minhag. I don't think people teach this. He says minhag is to be make it like the tashbetz. Afshu chedesh. The gam yish lahakal afilu im loy roitza tinik leilech. The kid doesn't want to go. Tzarich likach lisayik a pashtas avanas a pisach shuv b'tashbetz b'shem Rishon Zalman. So I don't know. That's what he says b'shem Rishon Zalman. I'll just say there's definitely a makkah to be made. For example, you just spent the last 2 hours. Can you just bring some liquid with you? You just spent the last 2 hours finally getting the kids to sleep. And the kid's sleeping in your hands, whatever it is, 6-month-old. And you're nervous now if you put the kid down, even a kid's sleeping, kafuf. No, it means tied up. No, because it's telling you chelis. Because the kid's sleeping certainly has the chelis. And you want to pass the kid, that would be a case to be mako. But now, what's the next level? The next level is very important. The next level is, can you take the kid? So thank you very much. What lemaisa is the eitzah? Anyone have an eitzah for a newborn? We said Ashata is aser.
What's Ashata?
We said passing is aser.
Passing the hands, maybe pass the lap.
Oh, very good. Throw it. Okay, Chevra, Child Services. Newborn. He's throwing the newborn in the hospital. He's throwing the newborn. I have to make a new bracha. So, Nachum Dave, what are you suggesting?
Put the kid on the lap. Or take from the lap.
Why would that be mutter?
It's not how shata.
Why not?
You're not passing hand to hand. You're not passing. You're pleasing.
So, to put the child in the stroller that the other one is pushing, that's going to be mutter. To take the kid and put the kid in on the other one's lap, Lemaisa, there is a chutshani that is mekel. And b'makam atzayrich, it's definitely important to know this, because, what should I tell you, at certain times there are tzrachim. Rav Heinemann from Baltimore, they quote him as saying, for our Baltimore brethren over here, Avalaniach davar al birkeha, oy litel davar mi birkeha, kigoin litein netinik aleha, mutter. V'chein kasav b'chod shani achas niddah. By the way, if you look up the Chachani, it's a little bit not fair. He writes, Makam HaTzayrech, Rav Heinemann seemingly is Mekel straight. V'shem deloy havi kinesina, ele ki'ilu lachoy tinuk melgavi safsel. So he's learning the lumdus, like you just said, is that if I put it on her lap, I didn't give it to her. Now, I'm just going to point out a balabatish issue over here. Yeah?
It goes both ways. Putting and taking?
Pashtas, he says both ways. Listen, this gets very nitty gritty. The Arach Reinim, they want to split a hair over here and say it's only one way. Lamaisa, Lamashal, Berkowitz wants to taina. It's mutter for her to place something on him or take something from him, but because she is passive. But he cannot place something on her because he learned that it's the same thing as doing this. He learned that the act of a shot is the act of placing, and then there's the Kabbalah. That's how he learned, but he learns it's all from the man. I don't know, l'chayra, and I don't know, there's no l'chayra, what should I tell you? But all I'm going to mention is that if the newborn baby is not so pashut, I was just thinking about this, because if I take a newborn baby and place it on the lap, yeah, I mean, no one's going to be like, okay, put it down, okay, good, now I'll take it. Then the kid's going to fall flat on its face. So, It's just one of the things to be careful. Now, if it's a lap that's straight, in a chanami, you could place the baby down, leave it, and then the spouse could take it in a chanami. For example, it's negeh sometimes in a bed. Some people like to nurse in a bed, so the hopefully it's the wife is lying in the bed, and you want to, if it's the other way, I don't know what you're doing, and you want to place the baby to wife. You can't put it in her hands, but you could put it. Definitely put it next to her on the bed, by the way. And you definitely could put it on the blanket next to her in the bed. The question is, can you put it mamish on her on the bed? The answer is makkah to be makel as long as you're not putting it in her hands.
But it gives leeway to put it down. You're right next to her.
Right next to her is for sure mutter. That's for sure mutter.
From this.
Which might no, but that's a kol shekin. That goes back to the case. That's for sure, but that goes back to right. That goes back to the case of touching her clothing. No, that goes back to the case of touching her clothing that we said. That clothing to clothing, once it's one extra step removed, it's going to be fine. So too, if I'm putting something on the blanket, that the blanket's touching her, the fact that she felt the item fall and whatever, that is not a problem. But yeah,
leaning up against
correct. Correct. That is definitely the Eitzah. Stop. If you want to know what the Galat Eitzah is, that is the Galat Eitzah, is that if she moves over a little bit in the bed, and even though it's going to touch the covers, touch whatever, that's going to be the Galat Eitzah. Or throat. Oh, let's go to throat.
It has to be up though, it can't be down.
So everyone with the up throwing. Before we go to the up throwing, what's the story with carrying something together? What's halacha?
It's heavy, there's room to be.
Yeah, so they all start to the Chazon Ish, it's Eliezer that wants to be Mako. Why is it? Can we just understand what's the lumdus?
What dafka to heavy?
What's the lumdus? Before heavy, what's the lumdus? Why would it be mutter?
Shema Niddah.
Because it's a tircha, so that you get that heter out of there. So it's not chiba.
Okay.
You didn't think of that, did you?
Okay.
And then there's no negia because it's like a big item that you're opposite. Like.
Oh, so you just said something else. You just said that you're far away from each other. It's two different things. That's two different things. So is there a Moshe Chavra? We have a Moshe Baruch Hashem Yardei Chelik Beis Siman Ayin Hey. The Moshe says, "Ulaharim Mishtei Niddah Masoi Kaved," to pick up something heavy, or Litchay Biyachad Mita, to push a bed, V'shar Kli Kavedim, or anything else that's heavy. Avshe Inal Zeraya Brura Mashma Sharoi Lahachmir. But then he concludes, "Mikol Makoim Yesh Lachosh Lesar." He's roi. He's machmir l'chatchila, but b'diavad it's making to be mekel. What's pshat? Pshat is it's not a shot, it's not a zrika. So what is it? Well, what is it? If we're picking something together, it's called a shata. Both. Dining room table. Your dining room table. You want to move the table over a little bit. You can't pick it up yourself. So tell your wife another end. Let's pull it together. Or you want to the case in Eretz Yisrael they always talk about is the stroller. You live on the 17th flight and you have to schlep the stroller up, the double stroller up to the 17th flight. Wife and husband, you allowed to do it together. So the Ma'aseh Paiskim are saying b'makom atzarech is makom to be mekel. But again, let's just understand the lumdus is why, because it's not a hishata. It's not a yeshata, it's not a zrika, and therefore. But what do we see? We also see the fact that you feel spouse's movement. We're going to keep on repeating this over and over and over again. Feeling spousal movement is not usher. It's a big mistake. The fact that we're both picking something up and I felt the table move from her, no one ever said that was usher. If I actually tap her with a stick, that is a nigiyah davracher. But if we're going to pick something up together, the fact that I feel some movement, no one ever said that's usher. Stam, the place can discuss it. It's a cute case just because we don't have this anymore. You know, if one's on the phone and you have the cord. You know corded phones? Yes. So Baruch Hashem.
The charging wire for your phone.
The charging wire. Oh, the charging wire. That's not bad. You have like one of those very long charging wires. Yeah. Never understood that.
What's it called? Wireless charging.
But then how do you talk on the phone while it's on the
Literally
thing?
do.
I don't know what case you're talking about.
So, very good. So that's a good case. So Moshe,
Wow, so what's the shine?
can she pick up the cord while I'm on the phone, or vice versa? Or vice versa. She's on the phone, can I pick the cord? So Moshe, in Shimon Eisen's book, Moshe says his mother to pick up the cord. But again, what do you see? Again, you're going to feel movement. That is not an Isser. So let's go to Zrika. I hope this doesn't get too emotional. Let's go to Zrika. So it begins with a Maram, that the Maram was Machmir. Aloisa Chezarkin Maftichois, Oy Ma'ois, Biyan Nishayseyem, Be'is, Nidasan Roi Ligar Bahem. You should scream at them. So now, what do we learn? We learn that Zrika is Aser. The Ramah in Sif Beis teaches us that Zrika is Aser. Now, interesting. There's a Prisha, for all those who are very into the Prisha today. The Mice is a Prisha that says that Zrika is mutter unless it's a Zrika shel chiba. There is a prisha. Obviously, we know that the Paiskim don't really take that on. But okay, there is such a concept. Sfardim, what do Sfardim hold? All our Sephardi brethren. Sfardim, so it's a fight amongst the Sfardim. Ki Yidua, the Taras Abayis, which is Avadi Yosef. He's Mekel like Marana Machaber. And as usual, the Chida and the Ben Ish Chai are Machmir like us Ashkenazim. Like us Ashkenazim. Why is it Aser? Why is Zrika Aser?
Spike.
Touching, right?
Okay, what's Machsa Shekel? What are you saying?
You're gonna focus on each other, and it's gonna come when you're throwing. You're like focusing on the other person. It's like a kir of das.
Okay,
And
what if
then
I'm
you're
not?
gonna- he makes a tell you on that.
Like behind the back row, Kilo.
Lamaisa, we have Yana Rajba. We have Yana Rajba. Yana Rajba, like we said last time. Yana Rajba keeps on teaching us that everything is Aser al Tzkirva. Once again, that Rajba, is going to keep on coming back to haunt us. And that's where the Harchakos that we already read took the whole Zrika and said everything's Aser. Don't ask me any questions because it's all al Tzchiba. And therefore it's all over. That's the Harchakos. So if you ask the Harchakos, which again, as everyone knows, we often go straight with the Harchakos, there's no conversation. It's all Aser. It's all Aser. What about throwing something? Now, everything we spoke about a moment ago, we can talk about throwing, and it's one step removed, right? Can I throw something on her clothing? Can I throw something into her bag? Can I throw something into the stroller? All those cases are kol shekin from what we just spoke about. That those are all going to be mutter. Now, lamaisa, would our Harchakos be makel to throw something very far? No. Our Harchakos learned it's a light plug. Our Harchakos learned it's all Aser.
It's more
He learned it's all Aser. Again, I'm not going to repeat this every time.
Light plug was Hashata.
No, but he put it all together. You have to read it carefully. I have the same deal as you. I don't know if it's correct because he says by Hashata light plug v'chein leikabel miyad Hashem davar va'afilu lizrik davar miyad liyadam also b'chol ini bein shazrika hu b'meshach shaveh. Sounds like he's saying everything. Sounds like he's Gufa speaking that out. And he says, that is the Rashba, because you live together. Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much. Because you live I wanted to give you the full mitzvah. Because you live together with her. Thank you so much. So that's our Harchakos. We all know that Ramesha Lamaisa came along in Rav Shimon Eider's book, and Ramesha says that it's only us if you're close to each other. But if you're rechoikim elu, einoi bechlal miyada liyada mishari. Ramesha, Rav Shimon Eider in Hilchos Niddah.
Why is it still chiba?
Again. If it's chayk b'kalas reish, everything is aser. If it's chayk b'kalas reish, everything is aser. That's like if something is maybe they hear it's aser. I don't care what you're doing, wearing, or saying. If it's chayk b'kalas reish, everything is aser. I don't care what you're doing. Now we're saying it's not that. My wife is walking out the door. Oh, I forgot the keys. Can I take the keys and chuck them to her? No, I can't take. Go long, and have a whole football catch. That would be chayk b'kalas reish, l'chayra or not. If you're extremely competitive, tackle her at the 5-yard line. Listen, I don't think that's maybe the dechiba. Maybe it is. Ayin sham. But lemaisa zrika, Ramesha is mekel. Was anyone taught this?
Yeah.
Yeah, zrika davar aruch.
I was taught Zrika with our.
It has to be arm's length.
Oh, we still didn't get to the.
Arms left in zrika.
Yeah.
No. You were taught that you throw it not to her. Throw an arm length.
That's something else. Whoa.
No, throw it to her, but it had to be arm's length away.
Never heard that in my life. Even Ramesha l'chayr doesn't say that. It's a very small gather. It's a very small gather. Lo yedeh. What you're saying, what's I'm saying?
Right, that's what I thought.
What's saying? What you're saying is we're going to get to in a moment. The lamala business we're going to get to in a minute. I listen. What should I tell you? Okay, Chavra. Everyone should realize it's a Ramesha and Rav Shimon Eider's book. There's no true for Ramesha, and l'chayr it's a massive chiddush. It's kineged our Harchakos. Straight up connected. He says, "Bein shehish shows bein not." I don't know. I find it a very, very big chiddush that davar aruch we're going to be mekel on zrika. I really don't see why that would be true. But again, there is Rav Shimon Eider that wrote this. So if someone reminds me, I have the book at home. I have the English book, Rishon Reiner's book at home. I will bring it in Flayla. The Goyin Yaakov I still haven't found. I believe I own it, but I haven't found it. Zrika, Lizrik Lamala. Lizrik Lamala. Okay, here it comes. Chaver, what's the makar for Lizrik Lamala? Who's the first one? It's Pharisee Israel that he says, Vani Reisi, Noigin Shazarkin Davar Klape Mala, Veloy Leneichach Ishtoi. That's what Pesach Tshuva quotes it, right? Good. Come to the Chachmas Adam, and what's the Lashon? Can you read the Lashon of Pesach Tshuva? Okay, I'll read you the Chachmas Adam. Good. Pause. He just said two things. And the Chachmas Adam and all the Paiskim that quote this Hatter say two things. This is the reason why, from my limited knowledge, is a very abused and misused Hatter. He said two things are necessary for the Hatter. Klape Maila v'loy l'noichach ishtoi. What does loy l'noichach ishtoi means? Not to your wife.
Yeah,
Loy, slow. Loy, that doesn't mean that you have a target on her tummy, and if you don't hit the target, it's mutter. That's not what he says. Loy l'noichach ishtoi. Let's just translate the words.
So in English, straight up. It has to be straight up.
It has to be, number one, up. Number two, not in the direction of your wife. Let's read more Lashonis. Again, that's exactly what. And then the Chachma. Can you keep on reading? Yeah.
Vihi peshetes yada v'kablas.
So again, if I'm here, if I don't have to extend my arm to catch it, then it was called noichachmi. If you throw something to me, right, and it's coming to me, that's to me. If it lands here, right, here, that's not me. Everyone understands that?
No.
So if you throw, no, it's not what he's saying?
So far, he's still saying that's considered
No.
it's all part of it, I think.
No.
Meaning in her direction.
Keep it going.
Now the next thing, the Yishalach was that you're allowed to throw. That's what you're saying, I think.
No. I'll read the Chachmas Adam. No.
You can do this, right? So before that, it's that you throw it where she has to reach out her hand. That's still also. That's called Niddah.
No, that's not what he's saying.
Then once the Yishalach was that.
You can do this.
Yeah. Again, the Chachmas Adam. I'll read the Chachmas
People
Adam.
did this, and you can rely on
Right.
it.
Chachmas Adam says, "V'yesh mekilim lizar klape mayla shaloi lenoichach ishtoi." Listen to the Chachmas Adam. He says it explicit. V'yesh mekilim lizar klape mayla shaloi lenoichach ishtoi v'hi peshetes yada umikam. That's the cool. Yesh mekilim to do that. Okay, well, we'll discuss it afterwards. But the pashtus is, what if there is a heter? It's upwards, not to her. She sticks out her hand and catches it. So, if that is utilized, then okay, the Shever Levi still says Roy Lahachmir, and others still say, some say B'shas Adchak. Okay, fine. Our friend, not our friend, but the Harchakos Nachamol we know says it's Aser. So let's just go in order. Harchakos says it's Aser. Shever Levi says Roy Lahachmir. Lamaisa, there is a Pesach Tshuva on the page. There is a Chachmas Adam. I know the Lashon of Ramesh of Shemonaider's book, that there is such a heter, but again, the heter is right. The heter is not so user friendly because the heter. Again, I just want to point out the heter. Nachum Taif, can you come here for a moment?
Yeah.
Can you stand right next to me? No, stand over there, not so close. No, a little bit closer. Good. Now turn. No, to me. Thank you. So now, if I go like this, that's awesome. Good. If I go like this, that's awesome.
That's mutter.
Nope, that was it was right. If he didn't have to extend his hand; it went straight to it. If I go like this, that's mutter. That's mutter. He says, "Zarkon klapi mayla sheloi linoichach ishtoi."
And we're like this. That's also mutter.
No. He
He
did not have to extend his hand.
Okay, so I'll just
He did not have to extend his hand.
Now don't move your hand.
It's honor.
No.
Right.
Sorry, that was bad. No, watch. Don't move your hand. I said
Don't move your hand.
What
does that mean? How can you catch it in
Don't
his
move
hand?
your hand.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not going to him.
Again, it's not what the Chachmas Adam said. Chachmas Adam said.
If you have to go like this.
He's Chachmas Adam said. Peshetes yada.
Time out.
He
If
Peshetes
I'm saying like
Yada.
this and it has
Yeah.
to go here, that's called Peshet Yada.
I don't agree.
What about being
I don't
this and
agree.
not go Peshet
I
Yada?
don't agree. I don't agree.
As long as you have to
I-
reach
'cause
out for it, this is him.
Peshetes Yada.
Means
Again,
extend.
what's the other option? You have to catch it, right?
It's not even Patrick.
No, throwing it at him is
If
landing
it
on
would hit her,
him.
it would hit
It
her.
would hit her.
Well, that's only-
Yeah.
And then what? And then because it hits her, then what happens?
That's throwing it at her.
Throw it at her.
That's called throwing it at
So
her.
why is he? I don't. Don't sort of throw something at a person. This is not
We're
target
trying to find
range.
out what's considered in the
It's
direction of the.
Zrika.
Postman, I have to go
Slow.
catch
No,
it.
slow. There has to be a normal level that this is called. That it's. If I were to ask, go outside and ask what's called Zrika, what's called throwing something to someone. That is not what he's talking about. He's designing something, giving you two levels that's not called throwing it. If it's in the normal range, like it's an inch away, or like we're pulling out this millimeter ruler that if you don't move your hand, bechlau, that's called zrika. If you move it an inch, that's already called, that's not what he says.
Yes, because the lumdus is that she has to go do it.
Again, but if the normal way of zrika, if I told you zrika is aser, good. Can I have the kiss for a second? If I say zrika is aser, and I say what is zrika? So that is aser. What would that be? That would be everything which is in the normal range. Now, if I say, but if you go and you throw two nekudas, number one, you throw it up, or number two, you have to extend your arm, it can't be the normal way of throwing something. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, because then that's called zrika. He's saying the chiddush.
He's saying a heter of getting out of the problems you're getting, and the getting out of it that calls on she has to
But
do
if
it.
the world
Actions
calls
accept
that
it.
zrika, then that is zrika. I don't understand how that could be.
No.
I thought we said that she also has to catch
Okay.
it while it's going up and not when it's falling.
No. That's not what the Chacham says. Anyways, I don't know what to tell you. Lamaisa, there definitely are mekilim in such. But again, the nekuda, it's a definition, and I don't know what to tell you. You have to be careful in l'shayne sabaiskim. They say einoi noichach ishtay. I don't know. In the limited understanding, I would assume einoi noichach ishtay can't be that it's an inch away from her. I would assume that's called noichach ishtay. And I think I think, and again, if chassid teachers teach the other way, then I hear. But what I would think.
It says kimeskaven lizrak liyada.
Exactly. So if it's within, that's exactly the point. That if it's within the normal realm, then that's called a zrika. Now even the lamala. What does it mean lamala? Again, I don't want to get too violent. What does it mean lamala? If it's a normal trajectory, is that called lamala? That's also silly. Then what's a zrika? Zrika is you're firing straight. I don't understand. So l'chayra nachama, when he says lamala, it means lamala. It doesn't mean doing this, because that's a normal zrika. He's saying a way to get out of the zrika. He's saying lamala, and he's saying, okay, that was
Emotional?
slightly Baruch Hashem. Okay, but as real as Aruch HaShulchan is, I'll tell you the reason why I'm not so forgiving here is Aruch HaShulchan says it's all aser. So if the Aruch HaShulchan says it's all aser, I'll slight plug. And we're going to want to try to take on a heter, I hear, but we have to be careful if it's the heter. I mean, there's different levels of machlekes. One level of machlekes is the Tferes Yisrael's mekel, and the Aruch HaShulchan's machmir. Okay, so you can be mekel like the Pislei Tshuva. Fine. But if we don't even know what the Pislei Tshuva means, it's a little bit difficult to be mekel like the Pislei Tshuva without knowing what he means. That's the nekuda.
He's saying by a woman, everything's not considered to her.
Stay there. Weiter. Okay, we spoke about the kid. We threw the kid around. Wee with the kid. Nachum Dave, what's the story?
Which part?
Wee with the kid. No.
Keep it grabbing.
Okay, Lamaisa Pashas is mutter. Kvater, what's the halacha? Kvater Pashas, it's aser. We've already spoken about all these things. The Chida gives an eighth of 2 pillows. Be careful, don't drop the baby. There's been terrible stories. And by the way, I mentioned the other day, to have someone take the kid in between.
With the whole picture.
Right, so they asked Chaim Kanievsky, are you going to lose the skula? Maybe the whole skula, Chaim Kanievsky said, lo yadu ali. Which I tell you, if Chaim doesn't know, then, but our Hilig is for all Sarah, maybe. No, he's not, I don't know, lo yadu ali. But, yeah, that was the Shiloh.
You get more of a
You get
school.
more exposed.
Oh,
You need to-
that's what Steinberg said.
I don't know.
The Maisa, the Hilig is for all Sarah, comes along and says, don't worry, it's also a kiyum of the school. That's what Sefer El Sar says. Okay, fine, 2 pillows. Okay, let's get into Shulchan Echad. Okay, Shulchan Echad, you all know the Machlekes Rishayim, you all know the Machlekes HaPaiskim, you all know that we eat differently than they did back then, and basically when all the dust settles, is we can split up the world, I guess we'll call it 3 categories. We're going to have meals, we're going to have snacks, and then we're going to have meals with other people. Now, within meals with other people, we're going to have to then subcategorize that to a public venue, to a private venue. So let's just do what's simple before what's difficult. When it comes to snacks, Lamaisa, many paiskim are makel. Shem Zalman is makel. But as I pointed out to many of you, appreciate the chiddush. Appreciate the chiddush of Shem Zalman. Nowhere in Shulchan Aruch do you see that snacks are mutter. Shulchan Aruch talks about eating together and kol tov. So, okay. Let's just appreciate the chiddush of Shem Zalman. Lamaisa, once there's some... Again. What?
We're talking about eating in the same bag.
No.
What do you mean by snack?
Yeah, what does snacks mean?
Talking about whether we have an isser of kaira shulchan echad. Talking about eating together, or you're going to need a hecker. Whether you're going to have to be allowed to dive into one bag, that's going to be a din of shiari meichel potentially. That's what Shem Zalman says. You don't need a hecker. Whether the hecker works for bas v'cholav tilchas niddah, there's an Aruch HaShulchan over here in Siv Zayin, which is very nice. The Aruch HaShulchan says that we can't equate the two. He says basar v'cholav is more chamer. That's the way Aruch HaShulchan learns. Therefore, whatever's a hecker there will be a hecker for us. What if you're just drinking together? You're having a cup of coffee. Do you have a hecker? So the same type of thing. The army kilim the Tzitz Eliezer is mekel. Similar to a snack, correct. Now, what about if you're allergic to your wife's food, or vice versa? Do you need a hecker? I don't know. Sarachi and our Svarim that discuss it.
In hecker, you don't do
no. So the question is in bas v'chalav, it's not so pashut that would work. The fact that you're allergic, it could just be it's totally in levels of allergy. If your mom is deathly allergic, it might be different. What if you have a hecker for bas v'chalav? Do you have another hecker for chas niddah? Okay, many places can make it with one hecker. Fine. Shulchan Echad. That was nice and simple. Shulchan Echad. So what are the term of Shulchan Echad? So there's the Isser to eat on one table. Why? Because it brings lidei chiba and whatnot. So the heter is a hecker. That's the heter. If you have a long table and you're on opposite ends of the table, some paiskim are willing to be mekel. Long table, opposite table. If you switch your seats, some place can really be mekel, but again, I point out you have to have a seat. If you don't necessarily have a seat, then that doesn't work.
Do you go in her seat, or
what?
Or it's like a bed?
No, that's a very interesting nikuda. I did not see anyone that says that her seat is like her bed. That has to do with that there's a special stigma to a bed, and therefore you could switch. And just be careful. If she's sitting at the end of the table and you're sitting on the side, and someone comes to visit you, they might think things are a little bit strange. Switch seats are paiskim that are makel to switch seats. Yeah. What if you are not you're not eating on a table? Any table. You went to not McDonald's. You went to whatever, and you have your food on your lap. You have your food on your lap. The couch, I'm a little bit nervous about. The whole matzav sounds a little bit too intimate to me. But let's say you're sitting at a park bench. 2 people on a park bench. You and your wife. Do you need a hecker if there's no table?
Well, that's gonna be and you're eating supper?
Yeah, supper. What was your supper?
You're eating
a supper. No, a supper.
It's not a picnic. It's not a tzila.
Again, Nachmal, if it is, it is. I'm talking about a case of not. You're sitting on, you went outside, you took 2 chairs, you sat down eating your lunch in the lap. Lamaisa, again, Nachmal, there are places that are makel because there's no din of hecker without a table. The Shevet Levi Lamaisa says if you're sitting together, then we should be chaysh v'hergel avera, and therefore he says it's going to be the same issue. Again, the places have acute cases. What about an airplane? Do you need a hecker on an airplane? You have separate tables.
You're eating with other people.
Eating with other people? Okay. Fine. Other people on a table. What's the din? So there's 3 extremes with other people at a table. What do you say?
Mutter.
Yeah.
Asr. And some say mutter, some say asr.
No. There's the Masa Binyamin.
In regards to
that Tshuva quotes that if there's other people at the table even if they're not sitting between you, it's mutter.
Mutter?
That's the most extreme. Then you have those that are mekel only if the other people are sitting. That's the masa binyamin, the brother. That's the most mekel. Then you have the next level that you're mekel, but only if they're sitting in between you. Then you have the next level that we're machmer even with other people being there.
In between you?
The Windex bottle still
Yes.
sits on the table.
But the Windex spot, that's something else. We're not about hacker. We're talking about people right now. The Lamaisa, when it comes to hacker,
Not between you, then you need the hacker, you said.
then you would need the hacker still.
What's a person? How old?
Again.
How old?
Slow. Let's go in order. So what is do people help? That's so meaning we have these three levels. There are those who take on the Masa Binyamin Allah. That as long as the other people at the table, it's Beseder. Rav Mr. Yaakov says this. There's an Harchakos that's Merames to this. Sefer Al Sarah writes this. There's nothing to worry about. Are there the next level kula if they're only in between you? Then you have the Chachani, then you have the Chazanish, who are mekel if they are between you. Is there anyone that is a machmer in Gansin? Avada, the Heilige Kleisenberger, the Shefa Taira, writes, he's machmer even if there are other people there. Now, we had mentioned that even if you're going to be machmir, but you could be mekel on what type of hacker. Meaning, if you want to pull a tzirif like that, meaning, if they're sitting in between you, okay, we're seeing there's a harbe makkah to mekel. But let's say not. You got your in-laws, so it's you and your wife sitting next door to each other, and then there's the rest of the family. So there is makkah to mekel to use a small level hacker, we'll say, even though there's a machlokes, which we'll mention right now. Does the hacker need a height? Some say yes, some say no. I'm purposely not mentioning names and faces, by the way, because you have every single name and every single face and everything over here. But lamaisa, when it comes to 10 12,
So what's
fire.
height?
Like height. I mean, not your ring, but there are those. But when it comes to if there's other people there, will be mekel with anything. And we mentioned, you can just take off your watch. You can take off your watch and you just put it down, and you're good to go. Kids. Now, kids bother me. Can I explain to everyone why kids bother me? We're probably going to finish with this. Kids bother me because, no, not in general, Baruch Hashem, but let me read you the Marakain. The Marakain was the foremost, Kitzur Sefer that the world used for many, many years. And he writes that, Loi sagi betinik she'yeshiv liyad hashulchan. A kid's not enough. Why?
Are you talking in between you or just at the table?
So he says, okay, you want to go with the Birkei Yosef, there's a kid at the table, not between you. His being there does not prevent you from hergel davar. Now, I don't want to get too graphic over here, but I don't fully understand what's going on. What are we talking about? No. That I understood. That's the only part I understood. Meaning, so let me just say, he continues, and he says, because of the Shevet Alevi, Gimel, Kotan ben Tesh Shanim, a 9-year-old bevade works. Harbe Boisim Gam from a 5-year-old works. So, what doesn't work? Younger than that. 4-year-old doesn't work. To me, it sounds just odd. Nothing else to comment. It's a 4-year-old sitting at the table and you come to Hergel Avera. I mean, that's just
could it be
just
after?
sick.
What do you mean Hergel Avera? Could it be after the time of the table?
Right, no,
No,
it's romantic, even if it's
It's not romantic with a 4-year-old at the table. What should I tell you?
Oh, you're saying it's not romantic?
I don't know what else to say. There's a 4-year-old there. Now you tell me, meaning Mamanashash. That's why I said I don't want to get graphic over here. If there's a mamish newborn, or a kid that's like no sheikhs, maybe even I'll give it a little bit older than that. I hear that the kid's kilu not there. The kid's not there. I got. But he's being a little bit more extreme than that. So I don't know if a kid that talks.
Isn't that together with the tash?
That is a little epis. Whatever. Yisrael didn't how that works. So about chasichud. What's you talking about?
No.
Oh, you're talking about Tashish Mamish. Seder. But again, I don't know. I just wanted to point out that. Yes, Yisrael Heinemann. Hilliger Baltimore says if there are kids, Kolzman Shemigil Shemivinim Ein Shrichen Hecker. If they understand, what age?
Understand what?
Understand what?
Understand.
Understand? Vahu Megil Sheish.
6?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. Now, by the way, which is what you were pointing out, if they're between you, then you have an extra level, then you have more mekil. We're only talking about, that's very important. I want to talk about if they're not between you. If the kid's between you, he's only saying if you want to be mekel all the way like the Mas bin Yamin, then we need a kid that's of age. But if the kid's going to be mamish sitting between you, then it's going to be, then look, you can be mekel on any age, I would assume. I would assume.
A newborn baby between you?
A newborn baby between you, l'chayra, because it could suffice as a hecker at least. L'chayra. Changing places. You asked who says changing places. Sijay Taya already talked about changing places, as well as the Chachani. They all discuss changing places. And does the hecker have to be placed in between you, or could it just be on the table?
Within arm's reach.
Is it a hecker or is not a hecker?
Oh, what do you mean?
What's the
If
hecker
it's
for?
over there, you're gonna notice this, then what's the problem? And if it's over there, you're not gonna notice, then it has to be between you. Like,
I mean, what's the hecker
the
for?
point of the hecker is to notice it, so it's not.
Is that you're not gonna reach your hand
Here's
over
where it is.
So you should know, by the way, I happen to
There's a siren blaring in your ear. I don't know, like.
I happen to like what you're saying. If some reason the places don't really take that on, I wonder if it's just because they're talking more like they're discussing other cases. But if you have your table is again, I always mention tables to be clean. If the table's not clean, it's hard to have a hacker because then everything is the table and like what's the hacker? But if your table's clean, you take a Windex bottle and you smack it on the table, it's like one in the world. The chayyur for sure it should work. But the other place that want to say, or the Asher says it only works if it's between them. I don't know. Okay. Maisa, the Mikubal is not that way so much. What if the husband knows is a hacker and the wife doesn't know?
Who knows?
The husband knows and not the wife?
Should work.
It should work, it's all for him. Yeah, that's what the Chachani says. Lamaisa Shem Zalman is Machmir, and he says you both need to know about it. And, the classical yeshiva guy question, you're allowed to use a sefer, it's the only time of the month that you use your svarim, not to learn, to put on the table. But Rav Chaim says, it's not royu. L'chayr telling the Machlekes Magen Avraham and Taz, are you allowed to use svarim, the good old Stender Shayla? Allowed to use your sitter as your chumash, not chumash. Allowed to use your sitter as a stender for another sitter. Right, exactly. So the Magen Avraham is mekel. Magen Avraham is mekel that you're allowed to use farim to aid Torah. The Taz is machmir. Could be it's totally on that. Right, exactly. That's Magen Avraham. That's Magen Avraham svara. Hecker. Excuse me. Goiva nacham toiv. So let me just read you the lashon of the Chachmas Adam. He says, "Elam kem yesh shum shinoi." Kigoin shekulam oy oichlem al teller echad v'umniach kli tachas a teller oy mappa oy she shum davar mafsik bin kair shaloi ledavar shaloi she'in b'shtamtim. He says you don't have to have any item. It can even be a placemat. It could be anything. Whereas our other place can like Rav Yashiv, Badi Shulchan obviously says goiva ksas. That's the lashon of Badi Shulchan is goiva ksas. Has a little bit of height. Want you to know about it. What's how tall? So they quote. Rav Yaakov Netsky is saying a tefach. It's pretty tall, but and what I said before, if there are other people there, if you could be mekel, the many heintika paiskim make that cheshbon. That's not my cheshbon. Can you use a tablecloth? Can you use in English a placemat? Thank you. Pashtas that should work as well. And finally, let's just conclude. What is it?
What does it mean, like a placemat?
Everyone has their own placemat. Each person has their own placemat.
Why is that a hecker?
It's only if you don't usually have placemats.
Correct. It has to be something that's noticeable, noticeable. What do you say?
For Basar B'Chalav, you guys always use placemats. It doesn't work.
Well, if they're Basar and Chalav ones, then it'll work. Because one's Basar, one's Chalav. Here, it doesn't. If you have Niddah and Heter placemats, then yeah, but
The item does not need to have.
I'm not getting involved in what's going on.
Say what I do.
The serving plate, Lamaisa, we conclude with the serving plate, which the Taz says the serving plate is mutter. Now, how many people have to put the food onto their own plate? Who has to have manners? Do you both have to have manners?
No.
No, as long as one of you have manners, then the other one could be an animal, because then you're not eating from the same plate.
Well, I'm saying,
And
even the wife's plate, we know that if there might be a heter to take from her plate and throw onto her.
That's something else. We're not getting there. We're going to pick up from here next time. That's next time we're at Hashem. We'll get to Brit Sam. We're just talking about a serving plate. As long as one of you doesn't eat from it, you're going to be fine. And the Mirza Hashem, We already spoke about that. Spreads have no issue. That's one of the things we already spoke about. Toothpaste has no issue. Someone last week wanted to share his wife's toothbrush, which was disgusting. But the Maisa, the Sfarim are Makel. The Menashe Klein, though, he had a very romantic toothbrush, and he says, the Maisa, you shouldn't do it. You know why? Because you never share your friend's toothbrush. Anashim Zarim Makpidim Loilish Time the Shinayim. Therefore, you shouldn't use your wife's toothbrush. She's a Niddah. You probably shouldn't use your wife's toothbrush ever. She's not going to be very happy with you. But okay, we'll pick up from this next year. Mirza Hashem.